Can you hear me? Okay, cool. Yeah, got that. Can you hear yourself? Check, 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 check. Cool. Cool, yeah. Choose lekker. And you check the comms as well, obviously, because you can hear me. Cool. Yeah, the level is good on my side. Yeah, yeah, it's good. Can you hear me? Check now. What is that better? Check, 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 check. Hold on. 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, you can hear me.
Good evening and welcome once again to the 19th Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival, coming to you live from the Cape of Storms and not the Antarctic Circle, much as it may feel like it. But at the risk of sounding very cheesy, the weather has done little to dampen the spirits and warmth of this festival, which is now on its 5th day, where we're gearing up for the next festival faculty concert, which is taking place in the Endler Hall on my left at 8 o'clock. Something for Everyone is one of the attractions of the evening concerts here at the Sicmf, and I think that's certainly going to be the case tonight as we combine individual flair and virtuosity with a keen sense of ensemble musicianship. There are 3 works on the program this evening. First, Viola Spaces by Garth Knox, with 2 of our faculty violists, Jennifer Stum and Zandi van Dijk. Then Subzero, a bass trombone concerto by Daniel Schneider, and after the interval, for the first time this festival, the great Czech composer Dvorak, his piano quintet number 2 in A major. Last night's faculty concert will be remembered for some time for various reasons. In the first half, we heard the SA premiere of a work by Jörg Wittmann entitled 180 Beats per Minute, a piece meant to evoke orally the sensation of a rapidly beating heart, capturing the excitement, anxiousness, frenetic environment that leads to an elevated pulse. A musical performance, maybe. Well, to warm you up from the inside out, let's listen to the first couple of minutes again of that piece. Our faculty members exhibiting their virtuosity there, a sensational string sextet. Aren't you impressed with my sibilance? We're almost at the halfway mark of the 2024 Sicmf, which means that the student ensemble concerts are now taking place twice a day as the participants put into practice their newly refined skills. In between, we had a public masterclass with faculty oboist Dwight Parry and a discussion a little bit earlier on instrumental wellness for the brass and winds. and Nina Schumann and pianist Emanuel Ivanov are wrapping up their intimate conversation across the way. Speaking of conversations, let's see what's happening elsewhere in the conserve. Jason, who have you found for us this evening?
Hi, John. Thank you so much. It is a wet, rainy and cold day here at the Endler. But speaking of someone that is cool, calm and collected, I'm here with Loudies. Loudies, I believe this is your third year at the festival. So tell me, what is the vibe like here this year? How has your experience been with the local artists and as well as the international faculty?
As Jason said, my name is Laudis Domingos. The experience has been wonderful. It's just really, really cold, you know. It's cold and I'm out here wearing open clothing, so I'm getting really cold. But I'm a barman as well here, so if I need to get warm, there's a lot of wine for... It's great.
I'm so glad. So I know who to go to during interval.
Definitely.
I know to go to now after this interview. So tell me, have you made experiences? What has been the highlight for you thus so far?
So far, today, actually, we had a chamber concert, and that was really fantastic. We only had 4 days to prepare for this concert, so we literally had to cram everything together. But it was wonderful, great stuff. Everybody pulled through, everybody's nice. There's been no beef, no roughness. Everything was just gelling. Everybody's just being nice to each other. And yeah, we had a beautiful performance, and now just getting ready for the next concert that's about to happen.
Anything to look forward to for the rest of the festival?
Okay, let's relax now. I was gonna
No worries. Thank you so much for your time. I'll definitely see you during interval, just for one glass, just to warm up the spirits and the heart and the soul. But yeah, back to you, John.
Thanks so much, Jason. It's so good to hear the festival family feel is real here at the Sicmf. Now, one of the most attractive draw cards for the advanced student participants here at the Sicmf is the chance to win a scholarship to shadow a faculty member in their country of work for a period of 10 days. Now, at the 10th Sicmf in 2013, the festival awarded 10 such scholarships, and at every Sicmf since, one such scholarship has been awarded. And tonight, I'm very pleased to be joined by a percussion participant of this year's Sicmf, Erin Solomon, who is the recipient of the special scholarship in 2022. Erin, thank you for joining us this evening.
Good evening, John. It is my absolute pleasure to be here. I'm sorry if I look a little bit under the weather, but I'm doing my best Gene Kelly tonight. A little bit of rain, a little bit of singing therein.
Can't blame you, it's a torrent
But
out
I'm
there.
here for good reason, as we all are, as patrons of this wonderful craft. And it was my deep honor, as you mentioned, to indeed be awarded the scholarship at this festival. So 2022 was my first year studying music and my first year at the festival. I had in fact had a spot of time studying architecture. And so during that year of transition, as it were, that was essentially a substantial personal and musical foray into this new world for me. So, I mean, life-changing sounds cliche, but genuinely that's what it was.
How did it all come about?
So, I mean, I came to the festival here at Stellenbosch University, not expecting anything in particular. And I met my dear faculty member, Mr. Javon Gilliam, the principal timpanist in Washington, D.C. in the United States National Symphony Orchestra. And I think there was a connection. And despite the fact that I was coming in, as I said, as a first year, my passion for the music, I think, sparked that connection. And to my utter surprise, as I was actually not even quite aware the scholarship existed, Mr. Gilliam very fortunately put me forward and I was selected. And so the next thing I knew, I had indeed been awarded the scholarship, and I was then able to, in February of last year, to go travel.
To DC.
Yes, indeed.
And how was that experience? Mind-blowing. You must just have been a sponge sucking up every minute of experience.
As you put it, to the point. I mean, literally just taking in the entire change of culture, the entire change of scene, beyond, of course, getting to watch him in action, you know, perform in that orchestra, genuinely life-changing, as I say.
The change of scene and the life-changing, there was no change of mind. It further convinced you that this is the path you want to pursue.
Interestingly indeed. Through change, a sense of realization of the constancy within. I like that. I'll take that. Yes, thank you.
What were some of the highlights from that time in America?
The very first rehearsal that I got to watch Mr. Gilliam perform with the National Symphony Orchestra, they were rehearsing Rite of Spring. Now, we timed the trip for that, you know, indeed. Marlin 9 was the following week. That's why I was there for that week.
Every percussionist's dream or nightmare.
I think every orchestral musician's, or every human being's, I should say, dream or nightmare. But I distinctly had full body goosebumps for probably the first 30 minutes of that rehearsal. Just sitting right there perched above, watching that orchestra from the downbeat perform that work with a new conductor, not their resident conductor, and not a single note misplaced. Genuinely extraordinary.
Incredible. Now the percussion is kind of in some respects a sort of non-mainstream musical past. Niche. That's a better way of putting it. What drew you to percussion in the first place? And I think you've mentioned before timpani in particular is your specialization.
Yeah, I mean, timpani really is my principal instrument, but I also adore marimba, particularly chamber solo work, whereas timpani, you know, really excels as an orchestral instrument. But I started as a little classical pianist at school, but of course pianists don't get to play in the orchestra. They don't get to play in the band.
It can be a very lonely existence.
Yes. And so while I was, you know, a little school child, of course mallet percussion, you know, it's spelt out like a keyboard. Yep. So if you can at least read the notes on a piano, you can read the notes on a marimba.
So the keyboard skills stood you in good stead.
So my one of the teachers at school just said, "Why we need somebody to play the glockenspiel at the back of the band there. Why don't you just come? You're pretty good at piano. Just come and play." And yeah, I think the joy of music making with other musicians and the role that percussion gets to play in color and texture and activity, it's sort of stuck with me, and evidently has stuck with me until now.
It's brought you back to the Sicmf again this year.
Indeed.
So how is it different or similar this time? I mean, in some respects, you're a celebrity. That's why you're in this seat right now.
No, not at all. You know, getting to
Do
rub
you feel
shoulders.
you've grown and developed a lot since the previous
I think
Sicmf?
wholeheartedly. I mean, the first festival was sort of being tossed, you know, into the pond, so to speak.
The first year, it must have been overwhelming.
Yes, but I think coming back both last year and this year, you know, getting to engage in more and more faculty concerts, you know, as you've mentioned, and getting to perform different repertoire each time, getting to reconnect with Mr. Gilliam, it's sort of just been a consistent building of experience, you know, deepening of knowledge, expertise, competency, really invigorating.
I dare say, an awareness that the path is still very long and winding, to paraphrase a Beatles song.
Indeed. I think very much so. Being able to observe, you know, the excellence that exists in this incredible field, it's a good realization of how far there is to go and how much there is always to learn.
Yeah, indeed. Aaron, beautiful to hear about your successes and all strength to your mallet-bearing hands and arms. In fact, to see Aaron in action, let's take a look at another highlight from last night. This is now the fourth section of a specially commissioned work by Peter Bezuidenhout that last night received its world premiere. Entitled Indaba My Children, it features a text that had been adapted from the writings of Zulu Sangoma, Vusamazulu Credo Mutwa, narrated by Dr. Mongi Mzobe. And see if you can spot my guest lurking in the back row.
Inspire me, O Spirit of my fathers. Give me courage to proceed to tell the world what say the holy ones of the first men. Let me relate to the world outside forbidden story of the wise ones, who for he believes to be good for his people. I shall open my mouth and tell you here So, gather around me. Indaba, my children. It is with these stories that we are able to reconstruct the past of Bantu of Africa. It is through these stories that the intertribal friendship or hatred was kept alive and burning, that the young were told who their ancestors were, who their enemies were, and who their friends were. In short, it is these stories that shaped Africa as we know it, years and years ago. The black man of Africa had no mighty scrolls on which to write the history of his land. The black tribes of Africa had no pyramids on which to carve the history of each and every crown, chief, and tyrant who ruled them, on which to carve the history of every battle lost and won, but they did and still do. They are men and women, preferably with black birthmarks on their, either of the palms of their hands, with good memories and a great capacity to remember words and to repeat them exactly as they had heard them spoken. These people were told this history of the tribes under oath, never to alter, add or subtract any word. Anyone who so much as thought of changing any of the stories of his tribe that he had been told fell immediately under the high curse which covered him, his children and his children's children. These chosen few were imparted the tribal history of Africa. These tribal storytellers were called guardians of the Umlando history.
Welcome back to our live stream, and it's the 5th day here at the Sicmf, and the 5th faculty concert is about to begin. So let me tell you more about the first work on the program tonight, another South African premiere. The piece is called Viola Spaces by Garth Knox, who was born in 1956. He was born in Ireland and raised in Scotland, and he was a student of London's Royal School of Music. And as a composer, he became interested in a plurality of contemporary styles. Viola Spaces, this piece written between 2004 and 2007, is a set of 8 concert studies, each focusing on the sound world made possible by a single extended technique. And extended techniques, as you may know, are unusual ways of playing an instrument in a manner for which the instrument wasn't strictly designed. For example, bowing behind the bridge on a stringed instrument. The Viola Spaces that we'll hear tonight are true concert etudes in that they're not merely technical exercises, but aesthetic statements in their own right. They were written in solo, duo, or trio form, and such was their popularity that Knox later wrote a set of violin spaces as well. Our two soloists in this work tonight are Jennifer Stum and Zandi van Dijk, and Zandi will be my guest in the interval a little later, so we can quiz him then about the intricacies of this piece. So while I head inside, here's another clip from last night, the lilting second movement from Mendelssohn's String Quartet No. 3, played by Madeline Adkins, Anna Vasileva, Jennifer Stum, and festival director Peter Martens. And a very warm welcome back to the Endler Hall, a site that may be familiar to you if you've joined us for the past evenings here at the 19th Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival, our live stream coming to you from the Stellenbosch University Conservatorium here in this very wet and windy week in the Cape of Storms. But in case you've only just joined us, you will be pleased to hear that we have three extremely varied works on the program this evening. The first, a set of concert studies for two violas by Garth Knox, a contemporary composer, and that will be followed by a bass trombone concerto with really interesting instrumentation, violin, piano, percussion, accompanying that bass trombone concerto, which will be in three movements. And then after the interval, a kind of return to classical or romantic music, I should say, with the Piano Quintet No. 2 by Dvorak, of which the second movement is my most favorite, and so really looking forward to hearing that live tonight. It's not often enough that one gets to hear this kind of chamber music. You'll probably be seeing clips now and then of the rehearsal room or the green room, the warm-up room, as the musicians are getting ready to come on stage. 2 of our faculty violists will be featured in the first work this evening, Viola Spaces by Garth Knox, and that'll be Jennifer Stum and Zandi van Dijk. And Zandi will be making a short announcement about the piece when he comes on stage. He will also be my guest in the interval this evening. I'll get to quiz him about the piece, about his family, the Van Dijk dynasty, so important they are to music in South Africa, and of course his international career as a string quartet player. He's a member of the Sicmf Quartet, and they will in fact be traveling to South Africa later this year, I think for the first time, giving a concert in, amongst other places, the Baxter Concert Hall in Cape Town. So very excited to welcome Zandi and his quartet to Cape Town in due course. And any moment now, our 2 viola players, Zandi van Dijk and Jennifer Stum, coming onto the stage. Here we go for 4 movements from Garth Knox's Viola Spaces, starting off the 5th faculty concert here at the 2024 Sicmf.
Hello, everyone. Oh, it's not on. How about now? Violists change their minds, obviously, so we are going to play things in a slightly different order this evening, and without chairs. We're cutting a harmonics movement because we didn't feel like playing harmonics, and you know, the violas don't really like, they don't like the rain and they don't like harmonics. So instead we will start with up, down, sideways, round, followed by 1 finger, followed by 9 fingers.
But is it music? Just kidding. I would love to see what their scores look like to get an idea of how those exotic sounds are notated. But very, very cool, something very different. And I can't wait to chat to Zandi a little bit later about the extended techniques and how one goes about managing those on a string instrument. Jennifer Stum, Zandi van Dijk, our two faculty violists playing their 3 studies from Viola Spaces, a set of 8 studies by Garth Knox, and they're another South African premiere here at the 2024 Sicmf, coming to you live from the Endler Hall. Now a bit of stage rearrangement, because we have quite an unusual work coming up next. Subzero, a bass trombone concerto with violin, piano and double percussion accompaniment. So this is another South African premiere. It's written by a Swiss composer called Daniel Schneider. He was born in 1961, and he makes use of all the timbral expressivity that a trombone is capable of in this very jazz-inspired work. So I think the rhythms of Viola Spaces have set us up quite well for this next piece. The composer is himself a saxophone player who studied at Berklee College of Music and who has resided in New York for many years. And so he has clearly then had plenty of exposure to jazz. And so many of his compositions seek to place jazz inflections within a traditional concert music type setting. He's also very influenced by non-Western music and musical instruments, as we will hear here. In fact, the second movement is named for an Arabic instrumental genre that features a compound metric pattern of 10 beats. This work was written at the turn of the century, in 1999, for trombone and chamber orchestra, specifically for trombonist Dave Taylor and the Absolute Ensemble, and it was featured on a Grammy-nominated album in 2002 called Absolution, and versions for wind ensemble, as well as a chamber group comprising violin, piano and percussion soon followed. Schneider is a musician of some renown and has connections to South Africa. He's worked with Abdullah Ibrahim. But now we welcome onto stage our soloist, Mark Hampson, with the bass trombone, as well as Suzanne Martens, violin, Megan Jeffrey Prince, piano, Jalvon Gilliam, percussion, and Sabrina Peterson, percussion too. And so here is Subzero, a bass trombone concerto by Daniel Schneider, in its South African premiere at the 2024 Sicmf. There are 3 movements. Well, that's hardly your standard concerto fare, but very cool indeed. Subzero, a bass trombone concerto there with faculty trombonist Mark Hampson, a soloist, and his mini jazz orchestra there comprising Suzanne Martens and Megan Jeffrey Prince, and then Jalvin Gilliam, Sabrina Peterson percussion, and Marika Meyer double bass, whom I regrettably omitted to mention at the start of the piece. What would a jazz-inspired infused concerto be without the bass? Another South African premiere you heard here first at the Sicmf 2024, concluding the first half of this fifth faculty concert. We'll be back in a short while for the second half, which is Dvorak's great piano quintet number 2 in A. But just before then, I'll be outside chatting to Zandi van Dijk. We're going to unpack the viola studies from earlier and all kinds of bits and pieces, his plans to be in South Africa again later this year, and so on. So don't go away. Welcome back to our live stream, and as always, for some perhaps the highlight of the evening, our amusing, entertaining, insightful interviews that happen here in the space. Tonight my victim is someone who's a firm favourite, a family member of the Sicmf, but he was born, of course, into a musical family, I dare say dynasty here. Zandi van Dijk, who received his first violin lessons at the age of 4 and is playing the viola since 1990. And since 2007 he's been a member of the internationally renowned Sicmf Quartet. And what I think is very exciting is you're going to be visiting South Africa later this year.
Yes.
With the quartet. Will that
Yes.
be the quartet's first visit here?
No, it'll be our second time.
Aha.
We were here in 2018.
Right.
We played at the Woordfees, and we played in Cape Town and Johannesburg and Port Elizabeth, and now we're coming back with a special project.
Yes, the time feels right.
Yes, it's a project that commemorates 30 years since the end of apartheid, and for this we have asked 8, 9 South African composers, young to older, to write pieces for us, sharing their experiences or anything that they wanted to share to do with this. Specifically, it's not supposed to be merely a celebration. I think we are expecting pieces because we still have a few coming.
Yes.
Expecting pieces which deal with other emotions as well, as they should.
Yes. So you've given them a very blank check, almost a very open brief.
Yeah. I mean, the project is called Bridge the Chasms That Divide, after a quote from Nelson Mandela's inauguration speech, and I thought that sort of encapsulated that which I was wanting to express with this project.
And this is so important, telling these stories that might not otherwise have an outlet or might get lost, such as we heard last night in the premiere, for example.
Absolutely. So that will be a big part of our tour. We'll kick off in Johannesburg at the Center for the Less Good Idea, where Neo Mayanga, who has written us a wonderful piece, we'll be working with him again, and we'll be workshopping his composition, and I hope Thandi and Tuli's composition as well, and then we'll be working with some local musicians there as well, and it'll just be a fest.
Fantastic. And then making your way down to Cape Town.
Exactly. We'll be playing at the Cape Town Concert Series at the Baxter, we'll be playing at the Olympia Cafe, and we'll be playing at Old Nectar out near here.
Yeah, the Olympia is such a nice space.
Yeah.
It's kind of a really almost collaborative kind of space where you feel very connected to the audience. Will you be bringing any standard quartet repertoire as well?
Yes. We'll be bringing some Haydn, I think probably the Lark Quartet, which is probably Haydn's most famous and most loved quartet.
Yeah, we don't get to hear enough Haydn. I mean, as the so-called father of the string quartet and the symphony, not enough of either of those genres, so that's very, very exciting to hear.
Haydn is one of my most favorite composers. I adore Haydn. We play a lot of Haydn with the quartet. I've played a lot of Haydn symphonies, I've conducted a lot of Haydn symphonies, and I have various Haydn projects either on the go or in my head, so he's the composer. I remember I saw an interview with Sir Simon Rattle a little while back. He was conducting Creation in Munich, and he said if he had one composer that he had to take onto a desert island, it would be Haydn. Because, and I mean, this is a difficult choice, but he said it's Haydn because Haydn has the totality of the human experience plus all the lofty things as well. And
Rattle, I mean, that someone associates with, say, Beethoven, for example, for him to make that kind of statement.
Rattle has done a lot of Haydn. He's done all sorts of Haydn projects in Berlin with other orchestras. I see he's been doing it with the Orchestra of the Age of Enlightenment. So, I mean, he has a real, and he has a great sort of touch with it. It's sort of gentle, but not sort of, I don't know, he has a firm enough grasp on it at the same time as sort of experiencing the sensitivity of it.
Yeah, that's a very nice way of putting Haydn fans unite.
Yes.
and maybe we'll hear more at the Sicmf in future years as well.
Yes.
So back to this festival. Yes. Let's talk about I mean, as a starting point, the work you played a little earlier this evening. So these very interesting viola studies, the extended techniques. I mean, for kind of a non-string player, I can't really imagine the sorts of challenges that presents. Well, does it give you a lot of freedom or flexibility, or were you kind of biting your fingernails before going on stage?
It depends on how well you have the techniques in your fingers, as it were. No, I think, I mean, what is fun, and the composer Garth Knox is a well-known viola player, a pretty famous viola player himself, actually. He was for many years the viola player of the Arditi Quartet, and for many, many years has now been performing as a soloist chamber musician and has composed. And these studies, they started life as studies, as works for solo viola, and he's recorded them and he's made videos. And then I think he did the duo version, and I encountered them first in a viola quartet version, which we played en masse, so doubled parts, also with Garth, and that was lots of fun. So
one imagines exponential complexity as the number of players increases.
Well, the lovely thing about watching Garth play these pieces, and one can see videos of him doing it in all sorts of combinations. I find him one of the most poised Zen viola players. He's worked very, very hard, obviously, and has this natural just flow, and so he makes everything look very, very easy.
I suppose it is easier in some respect when you're the composer.
One is sort of, and he's obviously writing in part for what he can do well, or has trained himself with these studies.
Sure, no doubt.
So it's fun to do that, and to watch another viola player at work and then try and sort of see how they're doing it and how it relates to one's own body and playing.
What does the score look like? Everything is written out fully, is it?
Yes. There are all sorts of terminologies which one might not have encountered before, things that he's either made up or are sort of lesser known. Circular bowing, for instance, is when one is, and then at the end he writes something called a helicopter, where you can take the bow in your fist and then you sort of, like a chopper, things like that. With the left-hand pizzicato, he's actually very prescriptive. He says which finger he'd like, so either one or two, and then all sorts of left-hand things as well. So he's very, very detailed.
So it's all very clear.
Yeah,
you've got to do a bit of homework, but in principle, everything is on the page.
Not too much. It's not forbidding. It's actually very, very nice to sort of...
So his presence is there in a kind of light way.
Yes, it is.
But he is still passing it on to you and saying it's up to you as the performer now to breathe life into this piece.
And as I said, one can see him performing it either by himself or with a number of different people. So he's put it out there, and one can see the different ways in which he does it, and then, one takes it oneself.
Now, Zandi, it feels like you've been on stage almost every night here at the Sicmf.
I haven't. I had a free night on Sunday.
Yes, that's right. But almost, I mean, we've had Beethoven, Caroline Shaw, the Golikhov.
Yes.
How's it been to bring such a diversity of music together in presumably what's quite a limited rehearsal time?
Yes. I love it. I mean, if one doesn't enjoy that part of the process, then this is the wrong festival. Because 2, maximum 3 rehearsals, I think, is for the chamber stuff. That's the time that one has, because people are flying in from all over, and one is coordinating all sorts of schedules.
But still feeling like you're doing justice to the music. I mean, from our perspective, hopefully speaking for our viewers as well.
Yes.
It just looks incredible. It's all making musical sense. It's all coherent and cohesive. But does that agree with your experience as a performer as well?
I mean, for the most part, yes. I mean, sometimes one just has evenings where one goes. But that then again is a sort of a very good example. And I mean, this is something which I've experienced so often with my quartet or quartets, is that you come off stage and you go, man, I feel awful. And they're like, what are you talking about? It's a great performance. And you speak to somebody else and it's like, yeah, it was a fine performance.
It's weird how subjective that experience can be. Absolutely.
So for the most part, all the performances so far, I've had a lot of fun. and it's been great.
And there's still more coming up, and not
There's more
just
coming.
as viola player, but as conductor as well.
Yes.
John Mackey.
Yes.
I think he's one of Nina's new pet
I'm
composers.
so looking forward to
The name
see
of this piece is
Asphalt Cocktail.
Asphalt Cocktail. A quick,
It is
what should we
an
expect?
epic piece. He describes
That's
it.
Thursday night, right?
That's Thursday night. It's the finale of Thursday night. He describes the piece as something along the lines of the most terrifying cab ride you can imagine in New York City at rush hour. It's just terrifying. I sort of think we all kind of know the Simpsons theme tune, and it's like that on like a bad acid trip. It's like head exploding.
Suddenly my trip here down the N2 on this stormy night doesn't seem so bad. But
Yes.
Sandy, we're going to have to go, I'm afraid. A couple of things to wrap up before we head back into the hall. Thank you so much for joining us,
Great
for
pleasure.
all the love, care you bring to this festival. Excited to see you playing, conducting in a few days, and then so relieved to know that we'll see you back in Cape Town before
Yes.
the year is through.
Yes.
So all the best for that.
Thank you.
And over to Jason. Let's hear what's going on elsewhere in the conserve.
Hi there, John. I'm here with 4 extraordinary musicians. They are all first-year participants of the festival. And I'm standing here with Caleb. Now, Caleb, I know you and Chanda, you had a performance here yesterday. And I know that you and Chanda are actually best friends here at the concert. So tell me, what was it like playing with your best friend?
It was a really fun experience. I mean, this was our first proper time performing together. We've messed around in practice rooms over the past few months, but this is our first time, and it's a pretty intense out there piece. So very fast, a lot of communicating, a lot of just having fun, glissandos, smacking the piano, and it was an amazing experience. I want to do it again, totally.
Lekker, man, lekker. And I actually want to ask you, Kiara. So, first year participant, how has things been for you?
It's been really, really fun, especially collaborating with people from other universities, people from other countries even, and the experience that you gain from people from all around the world is really invaluable. Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that. Any highlights of the festival so far?
I think the highlights are still to come. The orchestra performances are going to be really, really fun.
Great, man. I'm so glad that you guys are enjoying yourself, and I hope to see you guys soon again. John, as you can hear, the bell has been ringing for quite some now, and now it's time for us to go to assist for the second half of the performance. Back to you, John.
Thanks so much, Jason. And yes, you're right, these bells always seem to start ringing way too soon. I'm just getting into it with my guest, and then it's time to go inside, which is obviously why we're here, for the music. But on the other hand, the socializing, the getting to know one another, is also a really important part of this festival feel. So a few words about the work that concludes this 5th faculty concert, one of the staples of the chamber music repertoire of the Romantic period, the Piano Quintet No. 2 in A, Opus 81, by the Bohemian-born composer Antonin Dvorak. Now composed in 1887, this is classic Dvorak, a deft synthesis of classical forms, romantic harmonic inflection, organic motivic development, and all with material inspired by Czech folk music. It stands shoulder to shoulder with the great romantic quintets of his contemporaries Schumann and Brahms, as well as the monumental contributions to the genre penned by Schubert. This work also has the technical ethos of Beethoven stamped all over it, and in common with Beethoven's work process, Dvorak spent considerable time sketching and re-sketching material. The quintet actually began life as an attempt to write an abandoned early quintet project in A, but after reworking that failed, Dvorak began anew from a clean slate. And while the opening movement is perhaps reminiscent of Brahms in terms of the scale of its formal architecture, the second movement is a dumka that really showcases Dvorak's use of Slavonic folk melodies. The beautiful lilting theme of that movement is punctuated by quick interludes constituting a rondo form, probably my favorite bit of the work. The third movement, also marked with a folk genre title, is a furient, a fast, energetic dance of Bohemian origin, and the fourth and final movement is a fast allegro. So speaking of fast and energetic, let's look back at the last section of the fourth movement, from Mendelssohn's String Quartet 3 from last night's faculty concert. Emmanuel. Waiting very expectantly for this masterpiece of the Romantic chamber music repertoire, the Piano Quintet number 2 in A, Opus 81 by Dvorak. It's in 4 movements, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. There's an allegro, and then a dumka, this much slower rondo-style movement in which the thematic material comes back again and again. And then the third movement is a fantastic scherzo, this native Bohemian dance, this Czech dance called Furient. And then the finale, that's quick. And we're very, very lucky with our performers this evening. Andrei Baranov, Anna Vasileva, violins, Maya Egashina, viola, Other Maya Bogdanovich, cello, and Emmanuel Ivanov, piano. And here they come, ready for the equivalent of a chamber music marathon. Here then, to cap off the 5th faculty concert of the 2024 Sicmf, is the Piano Quintet No. 2 in A major by Dvorak and their 4 movements. And a shout out to Josh Hugh, who's page turning for Emmanuel this evening. What a treat to hear that kind of music played live and at that level of musicianship here at the Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival, coming to you live from the Endler Hall in Stellenbosch. Dvorak, his piano quintet number 2 in A, Opus 81, those 4 varied movements, all so infused with the colors, the musical language of his homeland, Bohemia. And what a treat to have Andrei Baranov, Anna Vasileva, Maya Egashira, the other Maya Bogdanovich, cello, Emmanuel Ivanov is our visiting pianist this year. To hear that music played by those musicians, how lucky we are. And that concluded tonight's 5th faculty concert. It's hard to believe we're at the halfway point of this year's Sicmf. And just listen there to the appreciative audience, all the students, all the other faculty artists, all the guests, all the visitors in the audience tonight. How aware they are of what a privilege it is to enjoy this level of musicianship here in Stellenbosch. Gosh, it looks like we might be getting an encore. Bravo. A very generous cherry on top there, the scherzo, the third movement. Once again, from that piano quintet number 2 by Dvorak. Big thanks and appreciation and admiration for our performers, Andrei, Anna, Maya, and Emmanuel. And let's not forget the crucial services of Josh, the page turner. Well, they're not getting away very easily, that's for sure. This is too much to dare to hope for another encore. They might as well just play the whole quintet again, why not? I don't think any of us here at the Sicmf would be able to live without the music of Dvorak and his invaluable contributions to the chamber music genre, to mention nothing of his 9 symphonies, his operas, his choral music, piano music, so much more. But what a treat we've had tonight, enjoying his second piano quintet there, side-by-side music from the turn of the last century. So please join us again tomorrow night here at the Sicmf. Even better if you can drop by during the day for the student ensemble concerts at 1 p.m. and at 5 p.m. or the masterclass with faculty double bassist Marieke Meyer at 3 o'clock. And then a panel discussion around auditions and competitions at 7 o'clock. In the 6th faculty concert tomorrow at 8 will be the Caprice of Danish and Russian airs by Saint-Saëns, Maurice Ravel's Le Tombeau de Couperin, a favorite of mine, here arranged for winds. And finally, a new work for many of us on the program, the Octet for Strings by Waldemar Bargiel, the half-brother of Clara Schumann. And then afterwards, there's going to be a late-night composers jam over in the Fismer Hall, so expect some bleary eyes and ears the following morning. So do join us tomorrow for another evening of chamber music magic. And on behalf of the team here at the Sicmf 2024, this is John Woodland wishing you much warmth on this winter night.